Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Nurse Mark and the Green Nurse Daily Dose of AFA.
where we bring you hope and inspiration for growth and healing so you can start your day off the AFA way. And in case you have forgotten what that is, we're going to remind you.
Could you forget?
He wrote a book.
Absolutely fucking amazing. You are. Welcome to the only Friday, March 12th, 2021 you're going to have. And imagine, you're absolutely fucking amazing. And this is going to be the best day ever.
Best day ever.
Oh.
I know. I wonder what the angels are saying. I've been
Well, what are the angels saying, Sherry?
What are the angels saying? Here we go. Give thanks to Source so that you may extend this love ever outward in a widening circle of gladness.
Yes.
How cool is that, right? Gives thanks to Source, so gratitude for love that's being shown in your life, right?
Oh,
I look at it.
You know, there's so much out there now about an attitude of gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is something that'll functionally change your brain. Like it will change the neural patterns in your brain if you simply write every day 3 things you're grateful for.
Yes.
It really literally does rewire your brain. And that's great because my brain's been wired in some wacky ways.
Mine too.
You know, stuff's happened and I get wired that way. It's nice to be able to have tools to actually flip the switch in the other direction.
Yeah, it's just like the endocannabinoid system. You can.
It is. Yes.
And so just think about how cool this is. This is just, and it's so easy. Here you go.
Yeah.
I don't even know how many seconds it would take, but just the first 3 things that come to mind right now, right here, that you're grateful for. That's it. Just think about it.
Yeah. Pop it up. What are you grateful for? I know what I'm grateful for. Yeah.
What are you grateful for, Mark?
You know what? I'm grateful for all of you. For you, Sherry, my partner, for all of the people who show up here, for all the people who will hear this at some point, right? I'm grateful for all of you and to have the opportunity, the platform to actually do this. And oh my gosh, I'm grateful for all of my family and all of my friends. They make my life. I mean, it's totally my life is made by all of you and them. Yeah.
Oh, Mark. Daily love.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get into the daily love.
What are you grateful for, Sherry?
Oh gosh, you all know what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful that this plant saved my life.
I am too.
And I'm grateful that I have the ability to turn that switch on and off so I can change my thought patterns to look at the world from a different place.
Yeah.
So I am every day, the gratitude list, the self-care tools, the love, the affirmation. Right. I know it sounds hokey, y'all, but guess what? It works. So I'm grateful for the tools that I've picked up along the way. So I'm literally doing everything I can to be the best version of myself, to grow personally and professionally. And that's what we want you all to do. You do not need to be limited by your anything.
No.
Right?
There's no limit. No limit. The only limit that there is the limits of what you think are possible.
Yeah. And so here's
cool is possible, Sherry. Everything else, right?
Here's a cool story. So I'm showing you my tattoos. So when I was sick, right? So when I was sick, you know, I needed something to remind me, and I've got it printed right on my body, just something to remind me to step into a different world when my thoughts would change and shift. So that little eye there is the Eye of Horus, and it has a lot to do with goddess feminine energy. And for me, that's about being receptive and being able to receive help from others. I had a hard time receiving help. So this is a reminder to do that. And this one here looks like a pretzel. Which I think
it does. Funny. It looks like a yummy pretzel, right?
So what it actually is it's a snake in the shape of a heart. So it's Mother Earth Serpent of infinite love and divine wisdom. And it's reminding me to stay grounded, present, and mindful.
Love it.
Yes. Little tips and tricks, hugs and nugs.
So good. Hugs and nugs. All right. So let's get into the daily love. And today it came from You Are What You Think by Dr. Wayne Dyer. And Wayne was a really cool guy. Like, if you know his story, his backstory, he was one cool mofo.
He was.
He walked his talk all the way to the end. And so he was a real scholar on the Tao Te Ching. And that was a book that was written 2,000 years ago, over 2,000 years ago. And it's filled with wisdom. It's one of those sacred texts that, you know, you can just reread over and over and over again. Anyway, Wayne was an expert on it and wrote a lot of his books were based on it. So today he talks about the ego fixated wants that can get in the way of your divine essence. So It's about practicing getting ego out of the way. And, you know, we talked about being more productive when you can let go of being ego dominated, right? And so what's it look like to be ego dominated? It's to have this, you know, this desire for outside things, you know, and I was, oh my God, I lived a long portion of my life just getting things, accumulating things, right? Yeah. And I had this idea in my head that if I got this new thing, that would be the one that made me happy. Like I'd get a new car, right? You get a new car, you're kind of happy for a little while. And then all of a sudden, everywhere you look, what you're driving is going by in the other direction. You're like, this isn't so special. It doesn't make me so happy. Now I got this car payment. Okay. So it's things like that, right?
Yeah.
So letting go of that.
Yep. And ego for me shows up. I agree with you. So ego also shows up for me. And it's not about being egotistical, right? So the ego is very essential in our fight or flight response. Yeah. Right. But also times too, the ego is very comfortable and set in its ways. So it's not about being egotistical, but it's about not allowing that loud screaming voice that wants to protect you, keep you safe, tell you things that aren't necessarily true. Yeah. So it's about quieting. You can't have an egoectomy. Everyone's like, oh, you know, in the psychedelic world, people's like ego death. But what it is it's having that experience of being outside your body with no body in pure consciousness, right? So think about that. And you come back into your body and you realize like your humanity, you know, your ego is part of being human. And the goal for me personally is to allow spirit to quell and quiet and tame and calm that ego part of me. So my spiritual essence can come through. And
it's why we meditate. It's why we medicate. Like it's because we're just trying to quell that ego, that driving thought pattern, trying to quell that. Because when we do that via like meditation, for instance, when we can calm down that mind, all of those ego thoughts and all of that desire and attachment to things, that's when you can really get in touch with spirit. You really connect to that small voice inside.
Yes.
So that happened for me. That happened for me at the end. And I talk about it in the book. You know, in 2018, I sold a house that I built with friends of mine, like literally cleared the lot with one friend, built the house with other friends. And they've all passed away since then, on land that my great grandfather bought in 1920 something. Like, so this was a meaningful home. Right. Yeah. And I had everything set up, Sherry. You know, I'm single at the time. And I have a hot tub on the back deck. I have a boat in the yard. I have 2-car garage with sports cars. And like, I have the bachelor's life. But I've always had this push to a recognition that the attachment to those things was not healthy for me, right? It wasn't providing me joy. So I had to let go of those. And it's scary as hell to do that, right? Because it's a good life.
Well, I got to tell you, here's the other thing. So in my situation, very similar, but the opposite way is that I had to detach and let go of stuff because I got ill. So things started, lost the job, couldn't work. I had a hard time taking care of the kids, had to cash out 401k to afford and live. And so then what happens is those stories start to come up, right? The ego base. So once I could let go of that and not identify with the story of who I was, who I thought I was, what I needed to have in my life.
By the things.
Yes, by the things. And not only that, like even the job. So the question was, who am I if I'm not a nurse?
Right.
So it's like, we are divine expressions of creative love. We are not what we do. We are, like, as Mark says, that in the core of who we are.
Yeah.
perfect, absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Unchanging and perfect and eternal.
Yes. And one other thing I learned too, Mark, the louder the voices in my head, like at any given moment. And so the part that's cool is the plant medicine has helped me to identify what voice is talking at one particular time. So the voice that's screaming loud, I'm like, oh, who's that? Who showed up?
Yeah.
And so plant medicine allows us to do that by opening up neural pathways, neuroplasticity, to help different areas of our brain to communicate with one another so we can self-soothe.
Right. So the message for today is look at your life today and contemplate, are you attached to your things? Are you attached to that job and that status? Are you attached to the physical possessions that you have? Are you relying on them to provide you joy and happiness? The answer is yes, and you're recognizing that they're not doing that. Well, it might be time to let go of that attachment, and that might look like getting rid of them.
Yeah.
It might look like that. For me, it had to be done. And stepping outside of those attachments allowed for my spiritual life to take off. Like I was no longer encumbered by the things, because let's face it, the more things you have, the more time and effort you need to spend taking care of them. Right? Yeah. So here we are. Now.
So here we are. All right. So now we're gonna delve into what we love to talk about, cannabis.
Yes.
And this has come up multiple times in our conversation, and it has to do with language, names, and terms. And so we're going to get started on that. I'm going to let Mark start about the plant. We're going to kind of break it down into genus, how it's broken down to strains, how it's broken down to genotype and phenotype, and then now how we're looking at chemotypes and what that means. So, Mark, I'll let you get started and we'll just continue to chat.
There we go. In the plant world, this plant has been known as the genus Cannabis. Cannabinoid, I think, is the actual one. So it's a biological classification or rank. So the genus of the cannabis plant is divided into three primary species: sativa, indica, and ruderalis.
Right.
And they're specifically different in structure, in size, and where they typically will grow best. So they are different. Further division of these three are done by defining strains. And so we talked, it's sort of like, it started out as cannabis, then we had sativa, indica, ruderalis, then it went to strains, and now we're moving away from strains. But many of those names that were chosen were based on the grower's choice, which is how we ended up with the current naming of these strains, right? OG, Kush, and cookies and cream, and all of these sour diesel. But they were based on sensory differences, like the look and the smell and the feel, based on differences in plant constituents, like the cannabinoid and terpene profiles, or is based on shared subjective experiences, like the effect on mood and symptoms, like, well, Bruce Banner, an avatar for the extremely muscular comic book Avenger Hulk, indicating an extremely muscular and powerful content of THC, right? Chocolate or skunk reflect their unique and potent terpene-based smells, right?
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. I'm going to put my glasses on for this one so I can see.
All right.
So anyway, now we're breaking down genotype and phenotype to further differentiate the plant. So the genotype is the plant's genetic composition or DNA blueprint of life. It contains all the genetic variations or possibilities of expression. So we talk about genetic expression, and it basically, it has multiple different variations. Right. So phenotype, this is the part that I like, describes the way a specific environmental signal activates a set of genes while leaving the others inactive. So this is how the plant physically expresses itself. What does it look like? What does it do? And so I like it. So it's interesting that the analogy was
true for all living things, right? It's true for us. It's true for the plant.
So look at phenotypes as siblings, right? As siblings sharing some of the same visible traits, but not others.
Right.
So we have genotype, phenotype.
Mm-hmm.
So then we break it down even further.
Right.
Chemotypes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Or
Right.
chemovars. And so what
Right.
it does, it helps to predict specific medicinal properties and or potential adverse effects.
Right. And that's where we are now, Sherry. We're moving away from Indica Sativa and Ruderalis and the different strain names, and we're really especially in the medical community, we're diving into chemotype, chemovar.
Yeah, and the reason why is because the strain name is great. You know, the sativa indica hybrid thing is great. Knowing the cannabinoids and terpenes, but what's really, really important when we are looking at medicine for a patient having to do with the THC CBD ratio. And that's specifically what chemotype and chemovars look at.
And the minor cannabinoids and the terpene profile. I mean, all of these things play a significant role in how that's going to interact in each specific person.
Right.
Yeah. And you know what, Sherry, this is a good point, a good time to point out, you know, something that Carrie Lee shared on the podcast on Wednesday, and that is that Iowa requires all of the products to be tested, but they don't allow anybody to see the tests. So if you're a practitioner and you're trying to help someone utilize whatever products there are, you're not really able to do it effectively without having that COA, that certificate of analysis, understanding what's in that product.
Yep. And that's, it's really, really, really important. And that's the thing, is that when we're working with patients, you know, and they're asking about strains, that's awesome. But what I want to know, you know, the percentage of THC, the percentage of CBD, what is everything else in there, especially if you're using a concentrate, if you're using a tincture, you want to know everything. What is the THC to CBD ratio? And I'll give you an example with me. When I first started using cannabis, it was all THC. It was all THC because that's all I knew, right? But what I needed to do is I needed to figure out how to make the plant work for me, so I wasn't too elevated. You know, granted, I love to be elevated, but I wanted to be able to function. And so CBD, so knowing what my ratio is, knowing how much THC and CBD I need to take together allows me to medicate appropriately below the threshold of feeling impaired.
Right.
And so that's why we're going to get into the different types of chemotypes.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we're moving in the direction of really being very much more specific. And that's just, you know, it's a new area of medicine, right? So it takes time to really kind of finely hone in on what's going on.
Right. So if I hear, oh, this is indica, this is sativa, or this is hybrid, my next question is going to be, is it a chemotype 1, 2, or 3?
Yeah. And honestly, Sherry, you know, that different sativa and indica that we've used in the past is really not accurate anymore. All of it is a hybrid blend at this point.
Yeah.
There's been so much interbreeding over the course of time. Most of what you'll find out there is going to be in a blend of those formerly separate, distinct strains.
Right. So chemotype 1 is high THC, low CBD.
Right.
Chemotype 2 is equal THC and CBD, or close. And then chemotype 3 is high CBD, low THC.
Right.
So
think about it. Could be different. You could use each one of those products in a different way for different people, depending on what they're actually looking to address in their health situation.
And so that's why we use both. You know, oftentimes patients will have 2 different products that they're consuming together so they can find out what that ratio is that's best for them.
Right. Love it.
So here we go. Just a quick thing too. Yeah. This is not to make the old model wrong, but let's just quickly talk about the problem with Indica Sativa.
Yeah. So, you know, Indica has always been known as what? Indica couch, right? Because it's sedating. You have a real physical body sensation, right? And different terpenes play a role in the effect. Yeah.
Sativa is very uplifting. You have more of that heady high. The different terpenes same thing, play a different role. Sativa generally has more THC in it, and that's why people sometimes get anxious, have that anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the hybrid, which can be a combination of Indica Sativa. One of them is dominant than the other. So they tend to have both tendencies. And I find that too when I'm using a hybrid, if I'm inhaling. So I don't really, Indica Sativa and hybrid, I don't really, when we're looking at tinctures and capsules, it's pretty much, that's not how we use it. More along the lines for flower. You know, if you're going to be using a flower, whole plant, smoking, inhalation, vaping,
right.
I find that people generally have, unless it's a customized tincture where they're adding specific things in.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different. So, and interesting too. So here's an example too.
Yep.
I love this. So sativa, example of the old model. So sativa strains are uplifting and they're generally recommended for depression.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So indica strains are very grounding and they're recommended for anxiety.
Right.
However, both strains can make someone anxious and depression worse, which has to do with 1, 2, or 3. How much THC and CBD are in that?
Right.
And we know that higher amounts of CBD can reduce the adverse effects or potential risk of too much THC.
Mm-hmm.
And CBD-rich cannabis and hemp can produce an uplifting mood relevant to both anxiety and depression safely without the adverse effects. We're proponent for whole plant. We love, our THC, but we want, it's always about, safety, safe consumption. When people start using,
All of the cannabinoids have a role in a healthy lifestyle. It's just how much of those are you going to use for what specific things you're trying to, affect in your life.
Yeah. So what's going to be really cool is next week, what we're going to do is there's a chart that we have. And we're going to talk about a little bit more about chemotype 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to look at the chart and the differences and some of the reported effects that have been reported by scientific literature, as well as some of the anecdotal stories that we've seen with patients.
Oh,
kind of
got
cool.
A few of those.
Oh,
yeah.
Lots of stories.
Yeah.
So it's
here we are.
Here we are.
Let's really shout it out, all right? It's the only Friday, March 12th, 2021 we're ever going to get.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are you going to do with it? What you going to do with it today?
Well, I can tell you what they can all do. They can join us for Frequency Friday at 9 o'clock in the Green Nurse community. We are going to be providing more hugs and nugs through energy healing, vibration, resonance. And we all know that energy healing is real. It is so real. And we're going to explain it just a little bit more about Reiki, reconnective healing, and this little cool machine that we've been using. And the reason why we're doing this is because we want you to have all the tools, all the tools in the toolbox.
Yes. All the tools in the toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so good.
So good. So
good.
Friday, goodness gracious. What else do we have going on? I think that's it for today.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, one quick plug for myself.
Come on.
I'm going to be on Pro Cannabis Media, Women in Weed, this afternoon at 4:30. So 4:30 to 6.
I'm miss that.
Yeah, Women in Weed, which will be really fun.
Yeah.
Cannabis Media. So,
awesome.
So the other one last thing too, if you're in Massachusetts, I put up a little ad earlier. So we're looking for nurse practitioners to come join our team. We want Massachusetts
ramping up. We're ramping up, and we need to have. So the nurse practitioners we have today are rock stars.
Rock stars.
Oh my God, they're so awesome. And we need to have more because we're really going to turn on the flow here. Like we're set to help thousands and thousands of people utilize this plant safely and effectively as a medicine. And we need to have more capacity, to do certification. So
come in. And the thing that's great
is teach you everything you need to know.
We will. And Massachusetts is a leading force. I feel, in my opinion, a leading force for medical cannabis. There's a big, huge, rich medical cannabis community. And we want to bring nurses in to represent that. And then you all as nurse practitioners can share your education as we expand across the country. And that's what we're going to do.
Yes. Across the world. We're going to lead this thing, right?
Yes.
I mean, the U.S. has been behind for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Americans don't just sit there. Like we're going to leapfrog, right? And the East Coast, like New England, the East Coast, we are the lead in medicinal cannabis.
Yep.
For sure.
Absolutely.
And
so if you're a patient out there too, we don't want to forget about you, because you're the reason why we're here, really, honestly. Reach out to us if you're suffering from chronic illness, chronic pain, if you're interested in incorporating cannabis as a wellness regimen into your daily life, or you're interested in learning how to have a safe adult use experience. We are here for you, and we'd be happy to teach you. So visit us at www.thegreennurse.com.
It's why we're here. Listen, we sit around all day long just waiting for the phone to ring, for an email. No, that's not true, Sherry. We don't do that. We're jam-packed every day because we fill life to the fullest.
To the fullest.
Bringing it to Florida too. Woo!
All right. Let's do this. Absolutely. So, Mark, I'm going to have an AFA day and an AFA weekend. How about you?
Oh, my gosh. I'm having an AFA moment right now. Everybody that's here, you're here. My life can't be any better. This is awesome.
Yeah, it is.
So, Friday, it's your day. Be bold. Do something crazy and fun.
Yes.
Let's get on it. All right, Sherry.
All right.
I need to hear it. What's it all about?
It's all about love and living your best life and helping others do the same.
Yes. All right, folks, have a great weekend. Remember, 9 a.m. Energy Healing. Be there, and we'll see you on Monday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.